So we need to pick an equation. That's step one. Pick an equation and get a letter by itself. So which equation do you want to pick, the top one or the bottom one? If you say the top, which letter would you like to get by itself, the x or the y? X. Okay, so check this out. Now, don't write this down, right? Just watch me. If I subtract 5y and subtract 5y, I want to have 2x equals negative 5y minus 5. And then you're going to have to divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. So you're going to have x equals this nasty binomial that has fractions in it, right? So that doesn't look that nice to me, right? Now, so if I take a second and I think about, let me go back over here. Maybe instead of picking the top one, let me delete this stuff. Instead of picking the top one, what if you were to pick the bottom one and get x by itself? Because that could be done with one step only, and you don't end up with any nasty fractions. Check it out. If you subtract 3y and subtract 3y, you have x by itself. X equals negative 3y plus 3. Make sense? And I can't get rid of, give me a second. There you go. So this is obviously the quicker route. You pick the bottom equation and decide to get x by itself. That's the quickest path. You could have done it the other way, and you'd have a binomial with fractions, but this looks a lot nicer. And I'm going to substitute it in to the equation I have not used. I haven't used the top equation yet, so I'm going to plug it in into x or y? Into x, because this is an x right here. It says x equals this stuff, so I'm plugging this in into the x. So again, I'm drawing an arrow coming this way, and you will have 2x, but instead of x, we're going to put parentheses, 2 parentheses plus 5y equals negative 5. Now, in the parentheses, we're going to substitute the minus 3y plus 3. That's ugly. But nevertheless, it's an equation with just y's now. No more x's. So now I could actually solve it. So if I focus in just on this equation right here, I could distribute 2 times negative 3y, that's negative 6y. 2 times 3, that's positive 6. Bring down the plus 5y. Bring down the equal sign and the minus 5. And of course, we're going to combine like terms. On the left side of the equal sign, we could combine this guy with this guy, and we'll get negative 1y. Plus 6 equals negative 5. And last but not least, let's subtract 6. Subtract 6. You're going to get 1y, negative 1y, equals negative 11, which means that your final answer is going to be y equals positive 11, yes? So now that I have one answer, what do? Substitute it back in to any equation I want. So pick one, the top one or the bottom one. Doesn't matter, we already used both. Let's go with the bottom, okay? So if I take this 11 for y and plug it in right here, instead of y, put an 11, we could solve for x. So let me actually zoom in right here and plug in an 11 for the y. So it's going to be x plus 3 times 11 equals 3. And of course, right here we get 33, right? So we're really going to have x plus 33 equals 3. And if I subtract 33 on both, I'm going to get x equals negative 30. X equals negative 30. So the two answers to the original system are the coordinates negative 30 for x, and what was our y value? It was 11, I think? Yeah, 11 for y. Now, what does that mean? That if I were to have taken this original system and solved for y and rewrite it in slope-intercept form, both of them, and graphed them on an xy plane, the lines would not cross till way off the graph at negative 30, positive 11. So graphing would not be a good one, a good method of solving this one. Substitution is a lot better. So you guys have these to do for homework? You guys want to pick one? 6? 9. What? Okay, so how about this, guys? How about this? Let's check out number 6. Focus. Now, which method is easier to do, substitution or graphing? Graphing is the easiest. Let's pretend we didn't notice that. Let's go with substitution. Step 1 is to pick an equation and solve for a letter. Both equations are already have y by itself, so they're already isolated. So it doesn't matter which one you pick. Let's pick the bottom one and plug it into the top one. So you're going to take that and plug it into y. So my new equation is going to be over here. It's going to be a negative 2x minus 3 equals 6x minus 3. Yay? And if I solve this thing, let me get the x's to one side. Plus 2x cancels. Plus 2x. You're going to have 8x. Bring down the minus 3. Bring down the equal and bring down the minus 3. Wow, that's the ugliest minus 3. Let me fix that. And of course, you're going to get rid of that minus 3 by adding 3 and adding 3. So you're going to end up with 8x equals 0, which means that x equals 0, yeah? Because if you divide both sides by 8, you'll have 0 divided by 8. 0 divided by 8. And that would be 0. Now, I have one answer. Let's plug it in to find the other answer. I want to take this x value of 0 and put it in right here. So if I did have y equals negative 2 times 0 minus 3, I would get a y value of negative 3 because that cancels out, right? So there is my answer, 0, negative 3. 0, negative 3. That's the solution to this original system. Now let me tell you this. If I give you this system on a quiz, technically all of that work is a waste of time. What? Let me tell you why. Both of these equations are in what form? Slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form. So if you were to think or even do a quick sketch of this top equation, where's it going to cross the y-axis? Negative 3, so you put a dot right there, it crosses right there. What do you do from there? You go up 6 over 1. It's really steep, right? How about the other equation? Where does this one cross at? Negative 3, same spot. What do? I go down 2 over 1. It's going to go like that, right? Bottom line is, what's the point in common? That's the coordinate 0, negative 3. 0, negative 3. So, because it crosses at 0, negative 3, they both have the same b value. So, it kind of really was a waste of time to go through all this algebra to get the answer 0 for x, negative 3 for y, if you would have just recognized right from the start that they're both in slope-intercept form, which you could easily see that they both cross at this value. So the answer is 0, negative 3. Cool? So there are different methods. So far we've learned how to graph and finding the point of intersection. We've also done substitution. Tomorrow we're going to even learn a better method called elimination method. What do you guys like to see number 7? Number 9. 9's easy because y is already by itself, right? So number 7 is probably the most interesting one. Pick one, the top one or the bottom one? I would go with the bottom. Now let me tell you why. If you go for the top equation, I want to ask you, okay, if you pick the top one, you want to solve for x or for y? Pick one, x or y? Okay, x. What would you have to do to get x by itself? You'd have to get rid of the 4y, going minus 4y and minus 4y, and then after that you have to get rid of the 3 in front of the x. So that's already 2 steps. When on the other hand, if you pick the bottom equation and you decide to get x by itself, all you have to do is what? Move the negative 2y to the other side, go plus 2y, and you're done. So you could go with the top equation if you want, but the bottom's easier. So if you go plus 2y, you'll have x equals 2y plus 4 And now you could substitute into the equation you have not used. So I'm going to take this value and substitute it into the equation I have not used, not into the y, but into the x right here. Why? Because this is x. So I'm going to plug in 2y plus 4 in for x. So I always draw arrows. Let me rewrite the top equation. 3x, but instead of 3x, I'm going to put 3 parentheses, plus 4y equals 2. Now in the parentheses, I'm going to put the 2y plus 4. I'm going to solve this thing by distributing 3 times 2y, that's 6y. 3 times 4, that's 12. Bring down the plus 4y, bring down the equals 2. And now I could combine like terms, the 6y and the 4y, that's a total of 10 y's. Bring down the plus 12, bring down the equal, bring down the 2. And then I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. And if I subtract 12 from both sides, I'll get 10y equals negative 10, which means that y equals what? Y equals negative 1. Y equals negative 1. Now, if I know one answer and I want to find the other, all I have to do is plug it back in, and in this case, to any equation I want. I'm going to plug it into the bottom equation. Let me rewrite the bottom equation. The bottom equation says x minus 2y equals 4. Instead of the y, I'm going to leave parentheses so I could plug in the negative 1 in for y. So let me rewrite this. X minus 2y equals 4. There it is. X minus 2y, put the parentheses there, equals 4. Let me plug in the negative 1 now right into the parentheses. And now I could solve for x. That's really going to be x plus 2, because a negative 2 times a negative 1 is positive, equals 4, which means that if I were to subtract 2 on both sides, my answer is x equals what? 2. So my final answer for this system, for this original system right here, the final answer in coordinate format would be 2 comma negative 1. That's your final answer right there. 2 comma negative 1. If you have time on a quiz or test, take the x value of 2 and take the y value of negative 1 and plug it in for x and plug it in for y and see if it really does give you a true statement, which it does.